Can you think back to an era where a member of the royal family faced so much sordid, debauched allegations against him?
You just expect more from the royal family. You know, this guy was a serving officer in the Royal Navy, so an officer but no gentleman.
It's always been about the money and living beyond their means.
I wonder whether they feel any shame. I certainly, as Sarah Ferguson, as a woman, as a mother of 2 girls.
You point out that it's just been an avalanche, hasn't it, on Andrew, for the books, the emails. It's just been a never-ending year of crisis for him.
I'm sure Harry didn't choose that title because he couldn't even spell it, let alone know what it is.
Harsh.
Harsh but true.
I'm so fed up with pictures of where you can't see the faces of kids. I know they're not the only people who do it, but I've had enough. I don't get it. I either show them or don't.
Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where this week Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is enduring a nightmare before Christmas. Harry and Meghan unwrap yet another rebrand amid worries they may be running out of money, and rejoice at Prince George as he follows not only his father's footsteps, but also Princess Diana as he serves up Christmas dinner at a homeless shelter. I'm Matt Wilkinson, the Sun's royal editor, and joining me today to discuss all of this and more is the former press secretary to Queen Elizabeth II, Elsa Anderson, and royal correspondent for 5 News, Simon Weiger. Welcome to you both. I don't want to put people off their Christmas dinners, okay? But we need to speak about the Epstein files, which are incredibly unsavoury. We've been warned that these files, incredibly damaging about Prince Andrew and others, will be dropping. Now, I have a theory about this, and please just indulge me for a minute, and I want to get your thoughts. Did the royal family know that it was going to be this bad and maybe got ahead of the game and stripped him of his titles, got him out of Royal Lodge to maybe just extract themselves from this, what is in effect, a crisis?
You go.
I think it's planned for the worst, hope for the best. Certainly, I couldn't have foreseen the extent of damage that the Epstein files have actually done to Prince Andrew. Sorry, the artist that was known as Prince Andrew, and the royal family. And I don't think they did realise how bad it was going to be.
But they suspected it, and the chances of it only being that one photo of Virginia Giuffre and Andrew taken in London were minute. So the chances were there were going to be other photos and indeed videos. I mean, we haven't seen any videos yet, but the assumption is that Epstein's various properties were rigged up for that as well. So that's why the King and William acted. Eventually, they acted ruthlessly back in October, November to effectively banish Andrew from the family firm.
The picture that I think has got the most headlines, or has been shown the most times, is this grainy photograph of Andrew lying across the laps of several women. Now, this is at the saloon room at Sandringham. This isn't any old room. This is a room where just a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, the King was entertaining President Zelensky. Yeah. I think the royal family gather there maybe to watch the Christmas Day speech, I'm told, or have gathered there in the past. I mean, is he gone too far now, Andrew? Because these Epstein files are just, we keep trawling through them, more and more is coming out, Simon.
Yeah, more and more will come out. I mean, there's obviously lots and lots of documents and photos and videos to come out, but it's not just Sandringham, which is obviously one of their favourite homes. We've already seen pictures of Maxwell and Epstein at Balmoral, not just in the main building, but in one of the lodges there. So, I mean, what else is there? There's clearly a lot still that is being drip-fed out of Washington, D.C.
And of course, he famously mentioned the shooting weekend at Sandringham.
It was just a normal shooting weekend, yeah.
A lot of this stuff in the files seems to back up almost what we already know. Like, do you remember we've recently heard about the spitting image puppet? I think both Virginia Giuffre and another accused, I think Joanna Schoberg, have mentioned that there was the Epstein's townhouse, they had Prince Andrew's spitting image puppet, and we've now seen a photo of that as well, Elsa. It's
almost like a drama. It's like a soap opera on telly. I mean, every day there's something even more revolting and hideous that comes out of it. And all you do is just pity those poor girls who are subjected to such incredible abuse.
100%, yeah.
I've just remembered the photos at Royal Lodge with Beatrice's, I think it was her 18th birthday party. And it's not just Epstein Maxwell there. It's Weinstein was there at Royal Lodge as well, the house that Andrew's going to be leaving sooner or later. So there are these images all over, from Balmoral down to Windsor.
But it's all just really sordid. All right, and I say I don't want to pick people off their Christmas dinners and stuff like that. We won't dwell on it for too long, but it's a really sordid episode that's been going on for 20-odd years. The Daily Telegraph, okay, we know the Daily Telegraph here. It's a paper of record. I imagine it's the wives of politicians read it. It's something that is sane, it's interesting, and tells the truth. I rate the Daily Telegraph. But page 5 this week, the headline was "Sex Toys and Shotguns." Okay, in the Daily Telegraph, a classy broadsheet, this is Rob Jobson who'd written in Windsor Legacy, where he spoke about party bags containing sex drugs, toys and lubricants were distributed to guest rooms like party bags when Epstein and Andrew were there. It's really debauched at the moment, I think, with Andrew. Can you think back to an era where a member of the royal family faced so much sordid, debauched allegations against him?
You just expect more from the royal family. This guy was a serving officer in the Royal Navy, so an officer but no gentleman, clearly. And it is just so unbecoming. And of course, it has a knock-on effect for the other members of the royal family who are actually trying to focus on their charities and their patronages and all the good work that they do. And that is being completely ignored because of all the stuff going on about Andrew.
I think one of the images of the year is on the steps of Westminster Cathedral after the funeral of the Duchess of Kent. And Andrew basically sidles up to William and tries to engage him in conversation, tries to tell jokes. You did not have to be an expert in body language to work out what William felt about that. He did not want to be anywhere near his uncle. And it actually wasn't that long after that they cut him loose.
Well, it goes back to the original point. Did the royal family realise that the Epstein files would be coming out and would be hugely damaging and got ahead of the game? But do you think that the King and William, have they insulated themselves from this Andy crisis?
As much as they can do, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think hopefully the tone will shift once Andrew and Sarah Ferguson have moved out of Royal Lodge, because clearly they're still there at the moment. So once that goes, I don't know what else can come out. I don't know about you, Simon.
No, I think they've done as much as they can. I mean, he is no longer he's a member of the family, but he's not a royal. And so they've got rid of that link. So in the future, for anybody to say, well, he's still part of the family firm, they can say, well, no, he's not. He's lost everything. And
of course, Sarah Ferguson is in quite a few of these photographs as well, because these files have been heavily redacted for privacy reasons and taste reasons. They've been redacted, but she is photographed with a couple of appears to be young women with their faces blacked out and redacted. So we still don't know the full story behind Sarah yet. So there could be even worse for her.
Could be, and it's always been about the money, actually. I mean, obviously the sex side is sordid and disgusting. And we should point out, as we always do, that Andrew denies all of the allegations against him. He's never been arrested. He's never been charged. But it's always been about the money and living beyond their means. Yeah. And for Andrew and Fergie, that was the real link to Epstein. It was money.
I wonder whether they feel any shame. I certainly, as Sarah Ferguson, as a woman, as a mother of 2 girls, how she feels about being involved in something that is so lurid and just so awful, and whether she feels any remorse now.
Well, it's not even now. It's like, did they not understand at the time? He's come out now and we see these Epstein files and we say this is debauched and really wrong. Why didn't anyone notice at the time? That's what I find extraordinary. I'm going to put you on the spot, actually, Elsa, if you don't mind. You were press secretary to in charge of communications for the late Queen for many years. Was there any worry, suggestion, fear that this crisis, the Andrew crisis, could end up like this?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But when it first sort of emerged in 2010 with the photograph of Andrew and Epstein walking in Central Park, who would think 15 years later that we are where we are? And a prince of the realm is basically completely being cut off at the knees from his family and the life that he grew up knowing.
The 2 books this year, the Virginia Giuffre posthumous memoirs, and before that, the Andrew Loney book entitled, They are both very important books, clearly, and had a devastating effect on Andrew. And the emails which prove that he knew about Virginia Giuffre and prove that he was in contact with Epstein. That's what did for him in the end. And his line in the Emily Maitlis interview was, "Well, I was just being a loyal friend and perhaps too loyal." But I mean, we can now see that for what it was.
It's just been, you pointed out there, it's just been an avalanche, hasn't it, on Andrew, for the books, the emails. It's just been a never-ending year of crisis for him.
And it won't end. And that's why William and Charles have acted.
Yeah. All right. Princess Beatrice, we touched on Beatrice and Eugenie earlier. They've both been put in difficult positions because our understanding is the King is very fond of Beatrice and Eugenie, and they've kept their HOH. And they're kind of, people talk about being insulated from the crisis. They are, generally being cared for. We believe that Beatrice won't go to see Andrew at Royal Lodge for Christmas, but also won't go to see the King. She doesn't want to look like she's taking sides. Is that the right thing for her to do in this situation? Is it an impossible situation for her?
Probably this year, I would have thought. And obviously she's loyal, or has been loyal, they both are, to their father. That is the instinctive thing to do. But it must have been severely tested this year with revelation after revelation. So for Christmas, probably, get out of the country and you're not seen to be picking sides.
It's a totally difficult position. I think you're absolutely right. And of course, the King, again, kept them inside the tent by inviting them to the royal family private Christmas lunch last week. And we've seen the photographs of them coming into Buckingham Palace. So I think she's being incredibly diplomatic. She's got a new daughter this year, and they just want to do something maybe just on their own nuclear family.
Devastating year for them. Devastating year for the girls, I would have thought.
We haven't really heard from them. Would you expect them to come out at some stage and talk about their parents and everything they've been going through?
I can't see that happening in the foreseeable future. Obviously, Matt, if you want to put a bid into Buckingham Palace for them to do that, I'm sure they'd consider you. I think it's heads down. I think it's just heads down at the moment and crack on with normal working day and see where we are in sort of 6 months.
They're in an interesting position because they're sort of they do public engagements, but they also have their private work and their private lives. So they're sort of half in, half out. Actually, the thing that Harry wanted. But Beatrice and Eugenie aren't full-time working royals, so they don't have quite the public exposure that the others do.
I'm trying to remember. I think is it, both of them have been given. I think one of them's been given a patronage connected to the King and Queen, and everyone's been brought in to work for the King's Trust or the King's Foundation. I can't remember the specifics. I wish I could. But the King has kind of opened arms to them. There could be a future maybe for Beatrice and Eugenie.
If they want it.
If they want it.
And in a slimmed-down monarchy, William and Catherine are going to need help as well. I mean, it's sort of slimmed down all by itself, hasn't it? But they're going to need help in the public jobs they do.
All right. Now, it's got even worse for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We pointed out there that this whole Sandringham escapade, where we see the pictures, it was a case of he alleged that in his Newsnight interview that it was just a straightforward shooting weekend. But we've reported this week, front page of The Sun, that Met Police have visited Prince Andrew at Royal Lodge, and he's voluntarily revoked his firearms certificate, which means that he can't go shooting. He still has guns, but he's not allowed access to them. Guys, what do you think this means?
Well, it's another problem for him, and I guess it doesn't look good. But I think it's probably to do with moving. He's moving at some point. Possibly, we're assuming it's Sandringham in Norfolk. It might not be. He might be off to the Middle East. Who knows? But I guess with the change of address, it's another complication and another thing he's got to deal with.
And another front page story, which again is taking the spotlight off, all the other work that the royal family are doing. And I would think, it's another humiliation. Whatever reason that the police gave for the licence being evoked, it's just something he just doesn't want to have to read on the front page of a newspaper.
Yeah, the front page, the visibility is such an important point because remember when we covered the visit to the Vatican in October or November, still he was on the front page then when obviously the palace wanted us covering the meeting with the Pope. So it's just sucking the oxygen away from what they want.
It also makes me wonder, what is he doing? We only ever see him horse riding. I know there was a big long article, I think, in the Telegraph. I keep picking up the Telegraph this week. My colleague Hannah wrote a really nice piece about what is he actually doing. I think she described him as like a couch potato. He's just sitting at Royal Lodge, watching telly. I think did he used to watch like the flights coming in, and he used to watch Flight Radar and stuff like that. But what does he get to do if he can't go? Because shooting's a very important part of royal family life. At Sandringham there'll be shoots, won't there, coming up in January in Balmoral.
Absolutely.
So what does he do? What can he do with his life?
I don't know. Honestly, box sets.
There is obviously an element of I don't expect people to feel sympathetic for him, but I mean there is a tragic element to this. In happier days, he was known as the Duke of Golf. I'm not sure how many golf clubs he's a member of anymore, but it's a lot of time to fill.
Yeah. And there are golf clubs which are taking his name off their club at the moment. People just want to be disassociated with him.
Okay. All right. Now, this week, it won't surprise you, but I'm a little bit upset with Harry and Meghan. Oh, okay.
Not again, Matt.
Not for the usual reasons. Right, not for the usual reasons. But they have changed the name from Archewell Foundation, to a word that I really struggle to say, Archewell Philanthropies. It doesn't roll off, thank you very much. I practiced, by the way. I practiced so many times on the way in today. To Archewell Philanthropies. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No.
It's another rebrand. We've had Meghan having to rebrand from American Riviera Orchard to As Ever. We've got all sorts. I mix up the TV show with the lifestyle brand. What does this mean, Archewell Philanthropies? Where are they going with this?
Well, I'm sure Harry didn't choose that title because he couldn't even spell it, let alone know what it is.
Harsh.
Harsh but true. So I don't know. The most important thing about branding, and I'm in PR allegedly, is you get a brand, you stick to it, so it's embedded in people's psyche, not change it every 2 minutes. So I don't know whose advice that they're taking, but it wouldn't be the advice that I would give.
The spelling's difficult. The definition's quite difficult as well. I mean, it's good works, I suppose, but it's an umbrella term to cover all of their good works. But as you say, there have been so many rebrands since the days of Sussex Royal, which they were then not allowed to use because they weren't working members of the royal family anymore. It's just one thing after another, isn't it?
Do you think they know which direction they're going? Because just on this Philanthropies, they say, well, so there's a new chapter, they're telling us, because they're now called a fiscal sponsor model, which appears to be they'll be giving out money. That's the idea. So they've kind of changed from like a charity or a foundation to a legal system where they're giving out money. But do you think the fact they keep changing their names and brands, do you think they're struggling to find what direction they're going in?
I think you're absolutely right. I do think they're struggling. You talked earlier about what Prince Andrew does on a daily basis. What does Prince Harry do? What do they actually do? Meghan is clearly making her Netflix programme, but what does he do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, in the next few weeks, he'll be in London at the Royal Courts of Justice for the next court case.
Preparing for a legal case at the moment.
Spoiler alert. But that's the third big one he's had against a newspaper group. When he was here in September and he did those 4 days of engagements, we saw classic Harry back in the saddle, doing what he's great at, and it was a real blast from the past. Going back to California, I always think about the Netflix contract, the multi-zillion-dollar Netflix contract. They are going to want, there's only so many polo documentaries and cake decoration documentaries they're going to accept. Sooner or later, they're going to want something royal. And Harry said he won't do any more, but watch this space.
Who knows?
There is potential for 2027 Princess Diana documentary. So there has been talks in the background. We've reported it in the past that it's a potential idea, and because that'll be the 40th anniversary. My maths are bad.
Yeah.
30th, 40th,
yeah.
30th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. That he could fall upon.
Yeah.
I can't see William wanting to take part in anything like that.
No, and also, in fairness, both boys have said so often, this is the last time we're going to talk about it. So if there's going to be another documentary on the 30th anniversary, that'll be the last time they talk about it there. I mean, there is new stuff to consider about Diana's final years and what we now know about the Panorama interview and so on. And by the way, everything that Harry's done and William have done since stems from that and how Diana was treated and how their wives are treated. So you always have to see it in that sort of prism, I think.
But that would be what Netflix would want.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll talk about money briefly, because this idea that Archewell Foundation is now Archewell Philanthropies, there's a suggestion that they were in the red. So I'll read out some figures. So the charity has reported that it's $2.5 million, which is £1.8 million in the red, after incurring its highest expenditure in 2024. But Archewell claim that it was a year of significant programme investment for Archewell Foundation after a period of strong fundraising, reserve building, so they haven't lost money. They're just using funds, previously raised funds for intended purpose. Quite confusing, but is money an issue, do you think, out there with Archewell and Harry and Meghan?
It doesn't sound very good to me. I'm no mathematician at all, but it sounds like PR gobbledygook, if I'm absolutely
Maybe
honest.
it's the way I delivered it.
And you're the expert.
It does sound very confusing. And of course, again, going back to branding, they rely on their brand to actually get the money in. And if the brand is constantly switching, I can see revenue dropping.
I don't know. I mean, with Spotify and Netflix and the various business ventures, it is confusing with the numbers. Yeah, pick a number. Well, we'll find out when we see what they're doing in the coming year. That will be your answer. What sort of projects they agree to, and whether they are becoming of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
What philanthropic endeavours that they decide to invest in. Duke and Duchess of Sussex also released their Christmas card photo. I quite liked it. Simon?
I'm so fed up with pictures of where you can't see the faces of kids. I know they're not the only people who do it, but I've had enough. I don't get it. I either show them or don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, I thought there was nothing objectionable about it at all, but it's very much sort of standard royal family Christmas cards.
Is that right? Because most of the Christmas cards this year, if you think about William and Catherine's, were taken from earlier in the year. The King and Queen were taken from, in sunnier climes. They don't really feel very festive.
But that's tradition. And, I've kept many cards that the late Queen gave to me, and it's normally a photograph from a significant engagement or event that happened, during the year, whether it's Trooping the Colour or an anniversary. So it's never been, certainly in my time, actually a sort of Christmassy, cheesy, schmaltzy, tinsely card.
Yeah.
So nothing would ever be so trashy that they're sat there with Santa or sat there with a big snowy backdrop and reindeer.
I'd pay to see that.
One of the best ones when William and Harry were much younger was with Charles. So it must have been after Charles and Diana had split. But he's in the garden at Highgrove, and Charles is on a bench, and either side there are two huge terracotta urns, and the boys are in each of those. That was a favourite one. But yeah, they're not Christmassy in the traditional sense.
We did see a little bit more of Lilibet and Archie in the kind of end-of-year video that the Sussexes did, and if you saw that, they did a roundup of how successful the year was, and they had Archie and Lilibet, I think, at a couple of charity events they were doing in California. Does that placate you? Does that mean you definitely...
I'm not demanding that they parade their children, but I think if they're going to be in a photo, show them, and if they're not, then they're not. I find all of that a bit weird. Protecting privacy, I completely understand, but if you're going to have the photo, have the photo.
How do royals feel about their children? You work with many of them. They're very protective.
Totally protective, yes, because they want to bring them up in an environment where privacy is sacrosanct, and so they can be as normal as possible during those sort of formative years. And of course, we know famously that there was the agreement when William went to St Andrews University about media intrusion.
But we're very, very lucky to see Prince George this week. Remind us, Elsa, he was at the Passage, and it was a rite of passage from in many ways.
It's an amazing charity. It's based on sort of Catholic values, and he was there with his father, Prince William, serving Christmas lunch to the homeless. So absolutely charming, really, really lovely, and nice to see him with his dad doing something so incredible for homeless people, and obviously following in the footsteps of William and his late grandmother, Princess Diana.
Well, that's quite the lineage, isn't it? The way they're getting them into this homeless charity. I think William was 11 when he went with Diana. George is now 12 when he went with William. And they had a visitors book, was that right?
Yeah, and which Diana had signed all of those years ago. So there are these public moments where we have photos and we see a little bit of video maybe, and we get to speak to people afterwards. But there are private visits as well, which aren't publicised. But yeah, it's nice in the visitors book that you have that historical lineage there going back to William's childhood, Diana taking him, and now George going, and we presume the other children at some point will go as well. Centrepoint, the other homeless charity, is William's oldest patronage, which he obviously took over from Diana, and he marked 20 years of that recently.
I mean, we weren't allowed there. There's been a string of kind of rota jobs that have existed this month that the palace have kind of kept in house. And I think with George, okay, he's 12 years old. It was probably very overwhelming for George to go into this place. But he had his dad with him, you know, and they were all friendly and nice to him. But so we weren't there to hear or listen or watch him. But the quote that jumps out, that when we spoke to the centre afterwards, that when he saw the book and saw his grandmother's name and William's name there, he said, "Wow." And that I'd love to have been there for that moment and seen George recognise that. But this is the first time maybe that we've really seen, tell me if I'm wrong, that William kind of introducing Princess Diana into George's life so publicly.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that before. You're right. What about you, Simon?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just racking my brains. I mean, we see George actually quite rarely. Wimbledon. She loved Wimbledon, didn't she? So Catherine took him to Wimbledon in the summer, which Diana obviously loved as well. But yeah, in terms of actual charities, this is the first time.
Well, I think they're doing it absolutely right. You know, it's that sort of slow drip feeding of royal events and occasions that George is taking part in, because he's only 12, you know, and it's that keeping that balance between being in the public eye and actually having the privacy to be a 12-year-old boy.
And William and Catherine have been able to shield their children much more than Diana and Charles were by having those very select public moments. Whereas with Harry and William, you know, we saw them all the time when they were kids, and you know, huge press pens of photographers and journalists outside the prep schools and whatever. Those days are over.
A different era.
Yeah.
100%. But I'd love to have been there.
Yeah.
I'd love to have seen George and just seen how he interacted, and you know, and because watching William with George is really sweet sometimes. You know, when you get to see them at certain events.
I love them at the football matches.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great. They're clearly, you know, they're like any other father and son just enjoying a match.
It's nice. The just briefly on homelessness, because obviously, look, laymen would say William lives in many large houses. Should he be? You know, is it a difficult thing for him to achieve, being so authoritative in the homelessness area? What would you say to that?
Well, I think he's gone on the record previously saying, yes, I know I live in a palace. You know, I come into a palace, I've got, you know, more than one home. But actually, I am using my position as the Prince of Wales to, you know, shine a light on this extraordinary issue. So, you know, I think that's justified.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But people often do comment, you know what I mean? But it'd be interesting.
Everyone's got a view, Matt.
Everyone's got a view. And it's just to see what happens with
Well,
George.
they sort of can't win, because if they do pursue charitable interests like that, some people are going to slate them, and if they don't, they get slated. So, you know, what do they do? He's very specific in, you know, environment, obviously, conservation, and the homelessness sector. He wants to make a meaningful difference and not just unveil plaques and snip ribbons. He wants to make a difference. Actions speak louder than words. We will see what happens in the West Country, in the Duchy of Cornwall, and the other properties they own in London. You know, they are opening places as we speak, and he wants to make a difference.
And it'd be interesting to see, you know, he takes George to Aston Villa games, he shows him football games. It's nice to see him take him to work, and you know, hopefully maybe in, you know, 30, 40 years' time, George will be taking his children in the same way. That'd be lovely.
And the same visitors book as well.
Same visitors book. Yeah, wonderful. Right, now, I don't know if you're aware, but it's nearly Christmas.
Yay!
So we don't look very Christmassy, apart from Elsa, who looks very sparkly.
I read the memo.
Did you read the memo? However, we're going to rectify that, because we're going to wear our special Christmas hats for our quickfire questions,
Right.
all right?
Okay.
You ready? I haven't tried mine on yet.
This is
so
Sun Royal exclusive Christmas order.
We're just trying to bring a little bit of festive joy. I don't know if this fits.
Only for you, Matt.
It's a little bit tight. I do have a large head. Right. Quick fire questions, everybody. So, which member of the royal family would be the best choice to dress up as Santa for the kids at Sandringham?
Mike Tyndall for me, I think, because he's funny, the kids love him, he's got that sort of big body in a good way. So Mike Tyndall for me.
Damn you, Ailsa. I was going to say Mike as well. He is the fun uncle. Yeah. In the absence of Harry, Mike is the fun uncle. So yeah, I think he'd definitely be good. But you've nicked that one from me, so I'm going to go back in history and say Henry VIII.
Yeah, we've got to have a big beard, haven't you? You've got to have a big beard.
Yeah.
William's got a beard.
He could be jolly. I mean, he had a temper, obviously, but he could be jolly as well.
Just a small temper.
Okay. What would you buy the king for Christmas?
I'd rather what would the king buy me for Christmas? But crikey, something really unusual. What about like a piece of the moon, or I don't know, something like that. Something really unusual. He's got everything else.
He's got everything. They give each other joke presents because they've got everything. He is a massive fan of the Goons. He's probably got the Goons box set, so I would get him something to do with Spike Milligan, one of the funniest men who ever lived, obviously, in the Goons. So get him a Spike Milligan biography or the collected works of Spike, who was hilarious. And he was at Charles and Diana's wedding as well.
Not a Christmas hat.
I don't think he'd wear it.
Yeah, I mean, Charles has got enough hats, hasn't he?
What do you want to hear from King Charles in his Christmas address?
Hope. I mean, this has been a personal year for them in all sorts of negative ways. So I want something hopeful and something that can unite the country.
Yeah, we have to have hope, but it has been a grim year for them and for the country and the world as a whole. There's all sorts of horrible stuff going on. But, he is the king. He is the head of state in good times and in bad, and he represents us in good times and in bad. And I think he is a very, very good public speaker.
Yes.
And I'm sure there will be that. You'll get your wish.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll hold you to that.
A little bit of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, end the year with a bit more happiness.
Yeah.
And positivity. I sound like Meghan now. The positivity.
No flower sprinkles.
What's going on here? And finally, would you rather spend Christmas, A, in a mansion in Montecito, B, an undecorated royal lodge, C, with all the royals at Sandringham, or D, like Beatrice, go skiing to get away from it all?
I think number 4 for me, even though I can't ski, but I think I'd enjoy the après ski.
I think Sandringham could be fun. Yeah, I could introduce some party games that the royal family may not know. Christmas games that the Vigors have been playing for hundreds of years.
You have to tell us more about that.
Squeak, piggy, squeak.
Okay.
If you know, you know.
Excellent. Definitely not Royal Lodge, undecorated Royal Lodge, though.
No, with a meal from a local supermarket.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks, guys. And Merry Christmas to you both. Thanks for joining in with the hats. I'm regretting mine.
It's very sparkly.
It's Christmas. So thanks very much, guys. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments below as usual, and remember to subscribe to us here on our new Royal Exclusive YouTube channel for the latest on all things royal. We'll see you next week, and Merry Christmas.